attacking the newly released FISA memo.
That's it. Dishonest and misleading memo wrecked the House Intel Committee.
Here's a guy who's supposed to protect the Bill of Rights, protect the Fourth Amendment, the First Amendment, and yet he says that's it.
The Dow logged its worst week in 2 years. When there were so many signs of strength in the U.S. economy, the reaction was puzzling. U.S. employers hired more people in January than economists had forecast, adding 200,000 jobs.
Pete Hegseth live today in Minneapolis.
One of America's holidays, the Super Bowl. I'm going to show you my farming skills, the first annual Farm Bowl.
That don't impress me much. So you got the looks, but have you got the touch? Now don't get me wrong, yeah, I think you're all right, but that won't keep me
Found his skills
So right,
in farming. He's not on the couch to defend himself. He's live in Minneapolis all morning, though. We're going to go back to him soon.
You're right, that farming race, the Farm Bowl. I'm not sure. He says he's from the Midwest, comes from a dairy family, but well, it's a sketchy.
He was really rescued by Vikings tight end Kyle Rudolph. He kind of like ran the show over there. Pete's like, well, Kyle Rudolph was there.
You know who is a man of the Midwest now, believe it or not?
Yes.
Geraldo Rivera. I mean, he's like straight out of New York City. You hear, the movie Straight Outta Compton. This guy's straight out of New York City. He loves the Big Apple, but there he is in Cleveland. And there's so much going on. We've been waiting in anticipation of this Republican memo, and it's great to have you here because, you had even Republicans saying in recent days, oh, maybe this thing's not going to be a dud. I don't think it turned out to be a dud, Geraldo.
Oh, either do I, Ed. And good morning and happy Saturday, everybody from the Midwest. I came for love, and so far, so good. What the memo, I think, leads everybody to the inescapable conclusion that there was the weaponization of this partisan opposition research done by Christopher Steele, the former British secret agent, and they used it as if it were factual without ever checking it out and without properly explaining to the FISA judge that it was op research and not fact. So by doing that, I think they polluted the sacred process of the FISA warrant, and I think that it is an indication that the FBI and their colleagues in the broader DOJ are operating more as a kind of J. Edgar Hoover-style FBI rather than Elliot Ness. That's just my take.
Geraldo, it's Rachel. I also moved to the Midwest for love, and it's working out great for me, too. But listen, I get a lot of feedback, Twitter. What people are saying to me on Twitter and through my social media is, okay, this looks bad, but what's going to happen? Because everybody feels like there's these scandals and nothing ever happens as far as repercussions for it.
Well, if you go back to the essence, Rachel, of what's going on here, maybe we should do a reality show, by the way, our two Midwestern families. When you go back to the essence of what this was supposed to be about, the Russians, everyone agrees, interfered with our election. The allegation was that Donald Trump and his cohorts somehow assisted the Russians in their interference, colluded with the Russians in their interference with the American election. As far as anyone can tell, there is no evidence of that whatsoever. When you look at what Mueller has, at least publicly so far, achieved. You have the FISA warrant on Carter Page, this kind of dizzy, I don't want to call him schmucky because I don't know him that well, but certainly nerdy, wandering guy, stumbling around. He's, one of those characters that just doesn't seem to have real substance to him. He's not even indicted yet. You have George Papadopoulos, another, guy that comes from the D-League somehow, pleading guilty and wearing a wire in the summer of 2017. No one knows what the hell has happened to George Papadopoulos. And then you have Mike Flynn, most seriously, General Michael Flynn, who was the head, as you guys know, of the national intelligence under President Obama till he got fired. He got in a jam. He was doing business on his own. He lied to the FBI, and so he got indicted for lying to the FBI. None of these things, these three gentlemen, none of them have anything to do with President Trump or his administration.
Geraldo, it's Todd. I moved to Connecticut for love, and earlier in the show, we asked Secretary Raj Shah, press secretary from the White House, is this a big deal? And here's what he had to say.
To show that in the middle of a presidential campaign, the FBI and the Department of Justice would rely on campaign opposition research, shoddy opposition research, I'll add, to justify a warrant for spying on the other campaign, it's a pretty big deal. It's pretty outrageous. I love how Democrats are saying it's a dud. It doesn't mean anything. They've used argument after argument, and it doesn't really stand up. This is a pretty serious allegation here that's laid out in this memo.
Geraldo, for the last week, we heard, oh, the sky is going to fall. The national security implications of this memo coming out are going to be unfathomable. What say you?
Well, obviously, Todd, that was pure hype. It never came to pass. You know, the passion of the Democrats and the progressive left to keep this memo from ever being released is so ironic. I mean, you just had the Post, the movie, where they extol the virtue of reporters and editors who stand against the man, and we're going to release this no matter what. And then suddenly there's a memo that helps the president, and they say, oh, no, this is if this is released, I'll have to tear my eyeballs out. You know, I think that this whole saga strengthens my opinion more than ever before that there is no way on God's green earth that the President of the United States should sit opposite Special Counsel Mueller unprotected and give statements, because that, to me, is his only exposure to real legal peril. The perjury traps, you know, who knows what the hell the special counsel will ask him. He could bring up some, were you with this person or that person? He can bring up gossip from tabloids. He could trap the president in some kind of statement, like Martha Stewart, who is also in the clear until she sat opposite the feds and gave her side of the story, and one of the people present at that interview decided that she had misrepresented or lied, and she went to jail.
Yeah.
The president has nothing to fear but too much of his own commentary.
You know, Geraldo, you make such a great point about the Pentagon Papers and this movie, The Post, and how we now have these strange bedfellows of the editorial pages of the New York Times and the Washington Post saying, yeah, we're with these government officials at the FBI and the Justice Department who want to conceal information. They want to tell the public less. But I would argue that there'd be some strange bedfellows as well. You and David Bossie, who don't agree on a whole lot, but here's what he just said, and we'll get you to react.
It's a disgrace to the American political process that this happened, and I'm outraged by it, and none of these people that had anything to do with this should be employed by the Department of Justice or the FBI. Look, the FBI is America's premier law enforcement agency. It is an outstanding organization. I've had the honor of working alongside a lot of those people over the years, and they are great men and women, and they don't deserve a few bad apples ruining and tarnishing their reputations.
He makes a fair point, Geraldo, which is that the president's critics have tried to say, look, if you're for releasing this information and getting accountability, you hate the man or woman FBI agent out on the street fighting terrorists, when instead what's going on here is trying to hold accountable the officials at the top who may have lied to this FISA judge.
You know, Ed, when David Bossie says it's Saturday, I say it's Sunday, because we don't agree. I think he's, you know, his actions during the Clinton reign were really, you know, below the belt, in my opinion, and then President Obama as well. But I have no objection and no contradiction to anything he said in the interview earlier this morning on Fox and Friends. I think that he is absolutely right. I have worked with and known many FBI agents. I think they are a noble corps dedicated to keeping the country safe against terrorism. I think, however, they are not immune to being politicized, at least certain cells within that grand organization and in the Department of Justice more generally. I don't think there is any doubt now with these emails of the lovers and the fact that they detest Trump and they're the last defense. You know, it's Dunkirk, and they're going to be there and protect the world against the coming of Donald Trump. I think that there is no doubt, but that this president, the 45th president of the United States, has been given the short straw by the FBI and by the Department of Justice. I can totally understand why he is upset. I think think the American people should be upset by the fact that we have now been distracted by this for over a year. They've come up with nothing but the three individuals that I've already mentioned. It doesn't come close to the president. There's not a single allegation. We must remember this is about an allegation that President Trump helped sabotage the American election and fix it in his favor by his collusion with our arch enemies, the Russians. There is no evidence of that, and I think it's time for the American people and the Department of Justice and the justice system to move on from this.
So, Geraldo, I can't let you go without talking to you about DACA. Both you and I agree this is a pretty generous deal, 3 times the amount of Dreamers or DACA recipients being offered citizenship than Obama offered. Do you think the Democrats want a deal? Why aren't they at the negotiating table?
I think that what's happening here, Rachel, is that the extremes in both camps are now exercising their muscle. And I think it's unfortunate because I believe there is a deal there to be had, and we should take the president up on it as long as it is out there and as long as it exists. Here's the deal. The deal is the 1.8 million Dreamers. You get the left gets the Dreamers, the right gets the $25 billion trust fund to start construction on the southern border wall. I want that to be the parameters of the deal in the short term. In the broader world, we'll get to comprehensive immigration reform eventually in the normal order. But because of the the government running out of money again in scant days, because of the urgency, because of the focus on the Dreamers, I think we have got to grab this this whole opportunity now to free these young people from the specter of being deported, despite the fact that they've lived here their whole lives and despite the fact that they now have citizen-born children. And on the other hand, we've got to solve the urgency. We've got to placate and soothe the right that has made the border wall an object of not only a physical being, but almost an intellectual, psychological exercise. That wall must be built now. Everybody agrees to that. Virtually everybody. They should.
We're losing your shot.
Dreamers,
Geraldo.
enough.
Hey, Geraldo.
Thank you, Geraldo.
We had a little problem with your shot there. I think it was because he was going to give a Super Bowl
sorry,
pick.
what happened?
No, it's fine.
You're up now. You're back. You're back, Geraldo.
I'm back. Oh, I'm glad.
You're back.
Oh, that is.
But we gotta go. So.
Okay.
Thanks, Geraldo.
Thanks for coming in.
Have a good one. We didn't get a Super Bowl pick. Oh.
No.
He's a Cleveland Brown fan. Are Democrats getting too confident about a House takeover during the midterms? Well, a new poll shows it won't be as easy as they think. Our next guest breaking down the numbers when Fox and Friends on a Saturday morning returns.
More big news this week in Congressman Trey Gowdy becoming the latest in a long line of House Republicans not seeking re-election. That's causing concern that the GOP will have difficulty stopping Democrats from gaining the seats necessary to take power.
This as new polling from Mammoth reveals a close race between the parties in a generic House ballot. So can Republicans hold on in 2018? Joining us now with more, host of the Faith Nation on CBN, Jenna Browder. Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So tell us, can the GOP hold on in the midterms?
You know, I think the biggest thing the Democrats have to worry about is if the Republicans continue to deliver on results, especially when it comes to the economy, the booming economy. And also, you know, the Democrats seeming a little bit out of touch at some points. You know, Nancy Pelosi making her crumbs comment about bonuses, or, you know, Hillary Clinton talking about deplorables. These all make Democrats seem a bit out of touch. So there are some factors that these Democrats are going to have to work against. And if Republicans can continue to deliver, that'll work well for them come this fall.
All true, Jenna. What a big issue, though, for the Republicans can just be simple math and history. As we look at the balance of power in terms of how many House members we have right now, you see 193 Democrats, 238 Republicans. There's 4 vacancies. The number of House members not seeking re-election keeps climbing, as we've been noting. And basically, you see right there, 34 seats in terms of Republicans not seeking re-election, 16 Democrats not seeking re-election. So the Democrats need 24 seats to gain power. The average since World War II for the party out of power in a midterm like this is to lose 26 seats. So what that suggests, at least history-wise, is that the Democrats would win a narrow victory and take back the House.
Yeah, look, history might be on the Democrat side, but I think if you take the pulse of the country and what people in Middle America are feeling, it's they're looking down at their paychecks. A lot of people yesterday looking down and realizing, hey, I have more money in my paycheck, or getting their 401k statements and saying, geez, this isn't so bad. So, you know, I think that could be, if Republicans, like I said, continue to grow the economy, drive down unemployment, that bodes well for them. And we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
You've got your pulse on evangelicals. Why are they hanging with Trump still? I mean, what do they like about him?
Yeah, you know, President Trump and this administration continues to deliver on key issues for evangelicals. We're talking the federal courts and the Supreme Court. We're talking moving the U.S. Embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. So a lot of key important issues, abortion and the president's stance on that. If he continues to be pro on a lot of these issues, that bodes well for him and for Republicans this fall.
He's delivering.
Jenna, last question. Is that sort of like a hidden factor in here that the mainstream media doesn't want to talk about, which is that we hear so much about the energy on the left from the resist movement, but is there maybe a quieter movement that was there for Donald Trump in 2016? The media laughed it off. The polls didn't show it. Could the evangelicals and others help Donald Trump and the Republicans hold on in the midterms?
I think so. And from sources, from some of my sources, there are already efforts, there are conversations underway between Republican leaders and evangelical leaders to make sure that these two groups are on the same page.
Interesting. Jenna Browder with CBN's Faith the Nation. We appreciate you coming in.
Thanks,
and
Jenna.
have a good weekend.
Thank you, guys.
Coming up, Will Hurd is a CIA officer turned congressman, uniquely qualified to comment. He voted to release the FISA memo. He'll tell us why. Next.
Plus, the Hawaii official who sent that false missile alert now speaking out for the first time. Why he says it's not his fault and why he may sue the state.
Grabbed all the cash underneath my mattress. Got a real good feeling something bad about to happen. Ran into a girl in a pretty white.
The FISA memo has been released and it is making waves across the swamp. But what does this mean for the lawmakers who voted to release that memo?
Let's ask one of them now. Joining us is Republican Congressman Will Hurd of Texas. Congressman, thank you so much for being here. All week, we heard the sky was falling when this memo was going to be released because of the national security concerns. As a former CIA officer, I ask you, is our country less safe today following the release of this memo?
No, it's not. And one of the reasons I voted for this, you know, as an undercover officer for almost a decade, it was my job to tell the difference between information and intelligence. And it was my opinion that there was nothing in this memo that was going to have an impact on national security. And to be frank, there was nothing in this memo that hadn't already been leaked to the press. I don't think anybody saw anything new that they hadn't seen, with maybe the exception of the fact that a newspaper article was used in one of the FISA applications. And so for me, this is about Congress exercising its informing function to educate the American people, to show, you know, sunshine on the process, to have transparency. One of the great things about our country and why this experiment called America has worked is because we have civilian oversight of our law enforcement entities. Not everybody, a lot of countries don't have that. And this is Congress doing its role.
That's right. I want to ask you also about the FISA memo, the FISA application. What are the implications? The memo says that it was false information, or the dirty dossier that was used to release that. What does that say? What is Congress going to do now that that information is out?
Right. I think it's important when we look at this information is let's remove all the pronouns, excuse me, right? The fact that the concerns that I have is that unverified information, circular reporting, and rumors were used in a Title III court in order to ultimately get a tell tap. And so Congress needs to continue to exercise our oversight role in looking at this process of what is provided at a FISC court. How does those judges review this type of information? And this is in my opinion, a pretty big deal when it comes to protecting the civil liberties of American citizens. Americans should be comfortable that if a law enforcement goes to a court, that they're going to have credible information, not rumors, circular reporting, or unverified information.
So, Congressman, let's assume everything you've just said for the last couple of minutes or so is 100% accurate. Why then should Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, have a job come Monday morning, 9 a.m.?
It's a good question and something that has to be evaluated. We also have to evaluate the political situation in which we're in. If this was a one-off, is this a chronic problem? Was it more of an acute problem? I also think that we got to look at the Inspector General report that's coming out from Department of Justice. We know there is one going on. I'm pretty confident that the head of the FBI has already seen that. I'm assuming that General Sessions has seen it as well. And so, let's see what the Inspector General says also.
Congressman, in light of these revelations, the $64,000 question, should we still have a Russia investigation following the revelations?
Yes, I think we do. I don't think this has anything to do with Bob Mueller. I don't think this has anything to do with the rank and file members of the FBI. Mueller should turn over every rock. He should pursue every lead. And this is a focus on what kind of information should be or should not be presented at a Title III court.
All right.
Well, thank you, Congressman. Always insightful, especially with your background in the CIA.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
All right, the Dow Jones plunging more than 600 points. Did the memo have anything to do with it? We'll ask Neil Cavuto next.
Hardest working man in show business
He
right
is.
there, Neil Cavuto. And what better way to enjoy the Super Bowl than with your own man cave? From TVs to surround sound, we got you everything you need to make your game day a hit. That's coming up next. You may be wondering, why did the stock market have such a rough day yesterday? Well, nobody better to answer that than our own Neil Cavuto, host of the new show, Cavuto Live, which airs this morning right after Fox and Friends. Neil, great to have you here.
Thank you.
A lot of things happened yesterday. There was a memo. There was a good jobs report, which is sort of counterintuitive. And we got some weird earnings from some huge companies like the alphabet companies. Do you have any one reason, or is it a combination of the three that the market fell 600 points?
Well, I would just say all of the above being good news. And good news was finally greeted as bad news. The fact that the economy, I know it sounds kind of perverted, guys, but it's picking up steam, and a little bit more steam than the most thought it would. And that's why interest rates have been backing up. Nothing to the degree I can remember when, let's say, I was your age. But, if you're getting used to like a 10-year note or bond that was, around 1.5%, and all of a sudden it's at 2.8%, never mind, there was a time when it was well into the teens. People follow that trend, and they get worried about it, thinking we're going to see more of the same. So, ironically, a lot of this was used as an excuse to sell based on good news.
Well, and it's interesting, Neil, because people like to forget these basic tenets of the economy. Markets go up, markets come down, right? Is that a risk for this president as well? Big picture, the Dow has gone up big time, but when he cheerleads the Dow, when it goes down, it's also going down on his watch.
Well, you followed many presidents that, and you know that Ronald Reagan was very spooked by quoting the markets because he always feared they could reverse themselves suddenly, and they doubled under his watch. But, of course, the 1987 crash happened under his watch, and he is famous for saying, stocks go up, stocks go down. But you don't want to align yourself too much to them, because someone will always pull out a bite or a clip or a remark you made when they were going up and forever tie it to you. Now, this president has tied much of his success to those soaring markets, as he should. If it's going to be going your way, you might as well quote it. But the flip side of that is when they reverse suddenly and they correct, and we're not even approaching even a minor correction right now. You're gonna have to deal with that too.
Hi, Neil. It's Rachel.
Hey, Rachel.
From my second home at Fox business. So listen.
That was the home that mattered, by the way.
That's right. You're right. That'll always be my first home.
Right.
So 15,000 of those 200 jobs that were added are manufacturing jobs. Now, these are jobs that Democrats said would never come back, kiss them goodbye. What is Trump and the Republicans doing that are bringing manufacturing jobs back to America?
Well, I think the first thing is enticing money that a lot of those manufacturers held abroad back home. Apple is probably the biggest and most familiar company to say, you know, because of this one-time tax forgiveness, you're going to pay a one-time rate of about 15.5% to bring the money home. It behooves them to do that. And Apple is doing that. Now it's going to be investing about $350 billion in this country over the next 10 years. Some naysayers say, oh, they would have done that with or without the tax cut. I'm just saying they weren't doing that before this came to being. But having said that, Rachel, I think what a lot of them are saying is it is now more cost effective and productive to do a lot of stuff here. So we're probably going to see a lot more of that.
Neil, if anyone deserves to be tired of winning, it would be you, because you just started this show and it's like taking off like a rocket, and you've done it.
Well, I think I have a very good opening act to follow.
Right. Well, there you go.
I just
It's a
look
good
at you guys
lead-in.
because you seem so caffeinated. And I'm just saying, like, how are they like that early in the morning?
Well, we don't want to boast, but we get up a few hours before you. I mean, this
Well,
is
I
like a
think so.
mid-morning show, but you're rocking it. Seriously, you're doing. You know, it's been awesome. The news obviously is driving all of this as well. So, who do you have on the big show today?
Well, we're taking a look at this memo fallout because, you know, a lot of people say there's no connection between the memo and the markets. And I readily agree with that, Ed. But I do think, and we'll raise this with Bob Goodlatte, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, because some in the markets are afraid, you know, this could drag on and on and on, and this constitutional back and forth, especially talk of a phase 2 of this investigation, whether other heads could fall. So we're going to talk to him about that, what the fallout could be. We're also going to get a read of the markets as well and how the small business guy is doing from the woman who runs the SBA.
Right.
We've got Linda McMahon with us.
She is.
That's great.
So
Good.
we got a lot going on here. Also, Joe Namath. Apparently, there's some big football game happening. But Fox isn't doing it, so I really don't care.
Right.
Wait, so we got Joe
You got
Namath.
Joe Willie on.
Yes.
Is he going to be in studio, or is he out in Minneapolis?
I think he's out in Minneapolis.
All right, because otherwise I'd stalk him outside your studio. I've never met him.
Now, he was a football player, right?
I hear
I've heard of him.
something about that.
Yeah.
Got it.
Neil,
I was
thank-
going to ask him about the bond market. But
Sure, understood.
Maybe I'll update that.
All right, have a good show, buddy.
As,
All right,
as
thank
Neil
you,
always
guys.
says, it's not about the blue team, it's not about the red team, it's always about the green team. That's
The
a great
green
expression.
team. I love it. Turning now to your headlines. An Arizona man is charged with selling ammunition to the Las Vegas shooter who killed 58 people, wounding more than 500 others at a concert. Douglas Haig, who sells ammo as a hobby, now facing a maximum of 5 years in prison for manufacturing and selling armor-piercing bullets without a proper license.
I feel terrible about what happened. Again, I keep racking my brain. What did I miss? What did I miss?
It's unclear if any of the 720 rounds of ammunition sold by Haig were actually used in what is considered the worst mass shooting in modern American history. Take a look at this horrifying video. 3 women violently attacked by a carjacker, a man punching and kicking them as the women fiercely fight back inside of a nail salon in Southern California. One of them smacking him right in the face with the chair. Employees from a neighboring business finally rushing in, taking down the suspect before police arrested him. Authorities are saying they have no idea why he attacked in the first place. The Hawaii official sending the false missile alert, sparking statewide panic, is now speaking out, claiming he was 100% sure that the threat was real.
The message that I heard was this is not a drill, and I didn't hear exercise at all in the message or from my coworkers.
A preliminary report finding the drill had no procedures in place to prevent a person from mistakenly sending an alert. The terminated worker now firing back, putting the blame on the State Emergency Management Agency. Now, this will melt your heart. A soldier returning home early to surprise his son on his birthday.
Hey, mister.
Sergeant David Meyer hugging his son at his Missouri elementary school. Meyer had been deployed for about a year. The boy's classmates then sang happy birthday to him as he stood at his father's side. And those are your headlines. What a beautiful story. Rick, where are you at?
I'm outside, but I thought I was going to be inside. So I went to the studio, like, not in my coat, and they're like, run outside. Okay. It's 19 degrees. So not that bad if you're only out for a few minutes. What's the limit that you will go outside? Yesterday, I was walking, I saw a guy in his shorts walking out from the gym, just a couple blocks, but it was like 18 degrees. Dumb idea. Let me know what you think. How far will you go with shorts on or without a coat in the middle of winter? Here's your temps, or here's your precipitation. Right now, we've got snow moving in across parts of the northern plains. That tomorrow will meet up with that little bit of rain you see across parts of Texas and make for a big storm for much of the eastern part of the country for your Sunday. Get ready for that. Right now, it is chilly. Feels like 1 in Boston, feels like 1 in Buffalo, feels like 32 in Mobile, and 25 in Atlanta. You get the idea. The cold has settled in all across the south, and the coldest day across parts of Minnesota towards Minneapolis will be tomorrow for the Super Bowl. 6 degrees for your high temperature for the day. Overnight, -4. Guys, send back to you inside.
All right. If you can't be at the big game, there's no better way to watch Super Bowl than in your man cave.
Yeah, here to tell us all about the one he's setting up for us this morning, Dan Silberman, president of Man Caves, New York. That's just that name says it all. How cool is that?
Am I allowed to be here?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, we'll allow you.
Do you have to call it person caves now? Or no?
That's good.
Girl caves, whatever you want to call it.
Walk us through. What do we got with the chairs, and then we'll get to some of the electronics.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that we specialize in aligning ourselves with U.S.-made products.
All right.
Trump approved, you know, Trump approved.
All right, that's good.
So we focus, our Man Caves focuses on the luxury market. We try to give people what they want for home automation. Basically one app that will control the whole house.
So you got an app that controls whether my feet go up and the other stuff, or how does that work?
Yeah, we can control the seats, absolutely. We do home automation with lighting,
That's cool. Look at that.
gate control.
Is that what this stuff is here for? What's the numbers on the
These
side
are
there?
buttons here. You can control the seats as they go up and down.
Look at this. I'm just pushing a button. I'm not like...
I love that there's a button with a little light. So if I got my beer in here and it's dark or something, there's a light that lights up the little coolie.
Correct. And the best part, they're very quiet. You don't even hear the motors.
Good to hear.
Well, Savant is actually the best automation company there is within the world, actually. They've surpassed everybody. The engineering behind Savant is just incredible. Savant starts off with a $500 remote and base station, which is right here, and this will control one room flawlessly. It's a great system.
Connects to your Wi-Fi?
Connects to your Wi-Fi, and it's user controlled. It's very easy. Anybody can set it up without a problem.
What about the TVs over there?
You can't have a Super Bowl without a huge TV. Forget that millennial stuff all looking on a tiny screen. This is the real deal.
That is a Samsung QLED TV. It's a 7 series. It's an incredible TV for about a little over $3,000. You just can't beat it. The blacks are incredible.
You can buy this with all the crumbs you get from your company.
Over 1 billion colors. It's precise. It's really what you would want.
So
for
if
a Super Bowl
someone got
party.
a bonus out there from the Trump tax cut, where do they find you online if they want to get some of this gear?
mancavesny.us.
All right. Thank you, Daniel Silberman.
Yeah, we also want to thank our friends at Party City for all these great decorations.
Awesome.
We're going to give them a round of applause.
We'll be partying tonight and tomorrow. Thanks for coming in, Dan.
Thank you again.
Appreciate it.
All right, coming up, the president just tweeted about the FISA memo. Looking forward to that.
We're going to bring it to you. Reaction. Yeah, still ahead. Pete, live in Minneapolis. He's getting ready for the big game, too. Where the snow is coming down, Pete?
It's coming down. It's warm inside U.S. Bank Stadium, which is right over there, but it's cold out here. You know who doesn't care? The Philadelphia Eagles. We've got the pep band, the drum line, and the cheerleaders. You guys gonna play the fight song for us here? Take it away, guys.